Chapter 7. An hour or so later, Grandma Griffin and I climbed into the old Buick and headed out of town toward the community beach on the near end of Lake Vermilion. I glanced at the map hanging on the wall of my den and realized Lake Vermilion was huge. I'd been expecting a little pit of a lake, something small and cozy, but Vermilion dominated the landscape up here in northern Minnesota. Even so, it was nothing like Lake Michigan back home in Chicago. Lake Michigan seemed endless and looked more like an ocean with its white-capped waves and rugged wildness. Lake Vermilion had all these little bends and twists and inlets and islands that made it feel quaint and welcoming, not nearly as terrifying as any of the Great Lakes, but still scary to me because it was a lake and very deep. I never went in past my chest in lakes, and I always avoided the deep end in pools. My fear of heights kept me off diving boards, as a rule, so there'd never really been a reason for me to venture into any dark, scary deep ends anyway. My sister loved diving boards and zip-lining into water, and she was always trying to coax me into giving it a try. "Just close your eyes and jump," she'd say. "If I can do it, you definitely can." But I couldn't do it. Maybe someday I'd work up the nerve, but that day hadn't happened yet. Grandma pulled her car into a spot in the near empty lot out at the beach and then set off on her daily walk up and down the little strip of road that went along the edge of the lake, leaving me and Griffin alone to explore for a while. We sat down on the wide stretch of brown, gritty sand beside the water, and I followed Griffin's lead as he began piling small stones and sticks to make a little fortress on the beach. "My mom told me I'm not supposed to ask you any questions about your sister, so you don't have to answer this if you don't want." Griffin looked up somberly, then went back to poking a stick in the sand. "What's your question?" I asked him. I really hoped he wasn't going to ask me if she was going to die, or if I'd started the fire, or why I hadn't put it out before it took over the house, or anything like that. I didn't like to think about my answer to those kinds of questions. I glanced at him and added, "Once I know what the question is, then I'll decide if I want to answer or not." Griffin looked relieved. "Do you like her?" I frowned. "What do you mean, do I like her?" "Your sister. Is she the good kind of sister or the kind that bugs you? Do you guys fight? How old is she?" "First of all, she's 9. I swallowed and looked him in the eye. "Same as you. And she's the good kind of sister. The best." Griffin nodded. I guess this was the answer he'd been hoping for. I've always wanted a little brother. But my friends at school, some of them have big families, and they're always complaining about it. It seems like most people don't like their siblings, but I've always thought it would be great to have at least one, a built-in friend. He looked at me seriously. "What's she like?" "Well," I said, trying to think of how to describe Amelia. "She loves making up games and stories. She loves gymnastics. She's really good at distracting people when they're worried about stuff. And she's usually funny, but in the roll your eyes kind of way." "What does that mean?" Griffin asked. "Her favorite book is called Dad Jokes, if that tells you anything. So she's always blurting out the worst jokes ever, but they crack her up, and when she laughs, it makes everyone else laugh." I took a breath, trying to think of something that would capture the essence of my sister. It was hard to summarize someone in just a few words, especially her. But then I thought of exactly what to say about her that would help someone like Griffin understand. Also, she's convinced she's going to become a superhero when she grows up. Griffin grinned. "The kind of superhero that develops their powers later in life, or gets their powers in a lab like Spider-Man? Or the kind of superhero that discovers they were born with a hidden super strength and uses it for good, like Wonder Woman?" I laughed. "I'm pretty sure she thinks she was born with a superpower and is just waiting for it to show itself, or that she'll move somewhere new like Superman did and discover her hidden power." "Cool," Griffin said definitively. He stood up and walked to the edge of the lake, dragging his bare toe through the chilly water. "I think it's neat that you're friends with your sister. All the 13-year-olds I know are crabby and think they're too cool to hang out with little kids, and most people I know don't like their sisters." I snorted. "Well, I'm not technically 13 yet, so I guess there's still a chance I'll wake up crabby on my next birthday. But I do like third graders, most of them anyway, and I definitely love my sister." "I hope she's okay," Griffin said quietly from the edge of the lake. "I'm sorry she got hurt." "Yeah," I said. "Me too." "Do you want to be done talking about her now?" "I think so," I said. "Yeah." Griffin shifted gears quickly. While I was still busy thinking about Amelia, he raced out of the ankle-deep water, unzipped his backpack, and pulled out his Bear Scout guidebook. Here are all the badges we need to do this summer if I'm going to finish everything. Forensics, critter care, a bear goes fishing, bear picnic basket. I cut him off. Those aren't the real names. You're making that list up. They are, Griffin insisted, shoving the book toward me. It's what the badges are called. Why do they make them all sound so stupid? I glanced down the rest of the list of Bear Scout badges, reading them aloud. Make it move. Marble Madness. Roaring Laughter. I rolled my eyes and gave Griffin a look. Seriously? If they have to call this one Roaring Laughter, I can pretty much guarantee it's not going to be fun or funny. Griffin's face fell. Do you not want to help me any more? I didn't say that, I said quickly, reminding myself not to act like a crabby 13-year-old. I just think these activity names are kind of, well, unappealing. I read the last few on the list. Robotics sounds cool, and I'm sort of curious what this one, Salmon Run, is all about. Super Science looks promising. I pointed to the last badge on the list. But a world of sound? That just sounds like a bad science class or choir video. I noticed a few things on the list were crossed out. What's the deal with Beat of the Drum and Grin and Bear It? We worked on the Beat of the Drum badge together as a den, Griffin explained. A bunch of us got to visit the Native American reservation outside town, and we met with some members of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. Some people from the tribe talked about how it's not right to borrow or use other people's traditions in the wrong way. He lowered his voice to a whisper. We ended up skipping a lot of the official badge requirements, since our troop leader feels like the most important work for this badge is us learning more about Native American culture and history. Well, that makes sense, I said. The tribe leaders invited us to watch this really amazing dance ceremony, and then they told us stories so we could understand the history of why they did the event. Griffin sighed. It was so cool. So, you earned that badge already? I asked, glancing at the list of requirements. My mom and I decided it wasn't really a badge I could ever call done, Griffin said. It's not like you can spend a couple hours learning a few things about someone else's life and culture and then call it good. I mean, you wouldn't want me to spend an hour talking to you and then decide that the things I learn in that hour is all there is to know about you, right? Yeah, I said, nodding. That's a very good point. I think you guys made the right call. At least I started doing work to earn that badge, right? Griffin said. That's better than not doing anything at all, and I'm excited to learn more. Okay, so what about the Grin and Bear It badge? I asked. We hosted a carnival for the second grade wolf pack a couple weeks ago. That was fun too, but not as interesting as visiting the reservation. So, you have 2 badges you started or finished and a dozen or so to go? 11, Griffin clarified, in a way that sounded me so much of my sister. 11 to go. Totally doable, I said. I scanned the requirements Griffin needed to meet to earn a few of the badges. Some of these are going to be pretty quick and easy, but it looks like Salmon Run is a swimming badge, I said, wiggling my eyebrows. I heard your mom say something about swimming lessons after church this morning. That seems like a good way for you to finish that one. Griffin kicked at one of his sand huts, destroying the eastern edge of our land. I hate swimming lessons, he said. I don't like to put my face in the water. If it makes you feel better, I said, neither do I. I'm scared of the deep end of the pool, and I never go out past where I can touch the bottom in lakes. Really? He asked, grinning. But you're big. You're not supposed to be scared of things. Ha, I sighed. I wish fears were something you grew out of. Maybe you should take lessons with me this summer. If you were there, I don't think I would be as scared. I doubt they'd put us in the same class, I said, unwilling to admit to Griffin that swimming lessons were absolutely out of the question. The lessons are here at the beach in the lake, he said. It's all ages together. Sometimes there are even adults in the class. My mom signed me up for the class last year, but I quit after a few weeks. He cringed. I cried every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon whenever it got close to swimming lesson time. My mom let me skip a few classes and then finally said she was tired of fighting about it. So I won that war. Oh, I said, smiling at the image of Griffin and his mom battling each other with plastic swords popped into my mind. Wendy seemed like the kind of mom who would be willing to play sword battle with her kid. At the end of the summer lessons, They inflate this huge climbing wall thing and have a giant slide out in the water at the edge of the buoys. If they think you're a strong enough swimmer, you get to swim out to play on it." He looked out at the water wistfully. "It looks so fun, but Mom says I can't go out there, even with a life jacket on, until she feels confident that I could swim back to shore without assistance." "The only way you're going to be a better swimmer is to take lessons," I said, feeling bad for taking Griffin's mom's side in the argument. Griffin rolled his eyes at me. "If you're 12 or older, you get to play on all the fun bouncy stuff in the water, but also—" He paused dramatically. "If you get good enough, you might be allowed to swim out to the raft and jump off." Griffin pointed to a wooden raft floating way out in the middle of the bay. The elderly floating structure looked like it was miles away, halfway to Canada probably. I could never swim to that raft. What if I got a leg cramp halfway out and slipped under the surface and drowned? What if a fish bit my leg and I couldn't kick anymore and I drowned? What if I got out there and I got freaked out having to climb up the ladder onto the raft and I fell back into the water, hit my head, and drowned? Every single scenario I could imagine ended with me drowning. As those fears washed over me, I remembered my promise to myself that this summer I would work on being Maya the brave. Maya who does things. Maya who isn't scared all the time. I thought about how surprised my family and friends would be if they heard I'd started swimming in a lake. How excited and proud Amelia would be to hear I could swim way out in a sea of deep, dark water. If I took swimming lessons with Griffin and got brave enough to swim in deep water, helping my friends stay safe, that would be a way to prove to myself and my family that I'd changed, that I was new Maya, strong, brave, and capable. But most important, Griffin needed me. If I joined the lessons, I would be helping him go for it too. "I'll do it," I told him, before I talked myself back out of it. "You're going to earn all 11 of your badges this summer, and we're going to get good enough to swim out to that inflatable slide in the water. But the deal is, we have to help each other, so neither one of us will give up, okay? That means I help you out with your bear badges, and you promise to take swimming lessons with me. No whining or crying or fighting with your mom. Deal?" Griffin looked out at the lake, then down at his Bear Scout book. Finally he nodded and held out his small hand to shake mine. "Lady, we've got a deal."